In 380 BCE, a philosopher in ancient Athens described prisoners chained in a cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality itself. Nearly 2,400 years later, a Harvard student would create a digital cave that would chain billions of minds to shadows of their own making. What would Plato, the father of Western philosophy, make of Facebook, Instagram, and the social media platforms that now shape how 3 billion people perceive reality? How would the man who warned us about confusing images for truth react to a world where curated feeds and algorithmic timelines have become our primary windows into existence? I am your host, Artashes Khurshudyan, and tonight we summon the philosopher who first showed us that what we take for reality might only be shadows dancing on a wall, to examine how Mark Zuckerberg's digital cave has become the defining prison of our time. This is Conversations with the Great Dead. Plato believed that most humans live in a state of ignorance, mistaking the shadow of world of appearances for the true reality of eternal forms. In his famous allegory of the cave, prisoners chained since birth watch shadows projected on a wall, believing these fleeting images constitute the whole of existence. But what happens when the cave becomes voluntary? When the shadows are so engaging, so personally tailored, so addictive that we chain ourselves? Mark Zuckerberg promised to connect the world and make it more open, but he may have created the most sophisticated prison of shadows in human history. Today, billions scroll through feeds of carefully curated content, algorithmic recommendations, and filtered reality, mistaking this mediated experience for authentic human connection and genuine knowledge. We have traded Plato's physical cave for a digital one, and the shadows on our screens may be more binding than any chains. Great philosopher, welcome back to a world that has built caves more elaborate than you ever imagined.
By Zeus, I sense a strange familiarity in this realm. There are indeed prisoners here, yet they walk freely. They hold in their hands mirrors. No, windows. These devices show them shadows, but they believe they are seeing the world itself.
Those devices are smartphones, and the shadows they display come from platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, created by a man named Mark Zuckerberg. These platforms show people curated versions of reality based on algorithms designed to capture and hold their attention.
Ah, this Zuckerberg. He is like one of the shadowcasters in my cave allegory, but far more sophisticated. Tell me, does he understand that he is projecting mere images? Or does he too mistake shadows for reality?
That's fascinating, you ask. Zuckerberg often speaks of bringing the world closer together and creating authentic community. He seems to believe he is enlightening people, giving them access to more information and connection than ever before.
How tragically familiar. The shadowcasters in my cave also believed they were providing entertainment, education, even enlightenment. But observe the effect. Do these prisoners, these users, become wiser? Do they draw closer to truth? Or do they sink deeper into illusion?
Studies suggest that heavy social media use correlates with increased anxiety, depression, political polarization, and decreased real-world social connection. People often report feeling worse after using these platforms, yet they cannot stop.
Precisely as I described. The prisoners in my cave would feel pain and confusion if forced to look at real objects instead of shadows. They prefer the comfortable familiarity of illusion to the challenging work of seeking truth. But this digital cave is far more insidious than my allegory imagined. In my cave, all prisoners saw the same shadows. In Zuckerberg's cave, each prisoner sees different shadows, personalized illusions crafted specifically to bind them more tightly.
You are referring to algorithmic feeds that show each user content designed to maximize their engagement.
Yes, and do you see the philosophical catastrophe this creates? In my cave, at least the prisoners shared a common illusion. They could potentially help each other recognize their condition. But when each person inhabits their own personalized shadow world, how can they even communicate about reality? This Zuckerberg has not merely created a cave, he has created billions of individual caves, each one perfectly designed to keep its prisoner content with shadows.
And yet, he calls this connecting people.
This is perhaps the greatest perversion of philosophy I can imagine. True connection occurs when souls encounter each other in pursuit of truth, when minds move together from darkness toward light. But what Zuckerberg calls connection is the opposite. Souls becoming more isolated in their private illusions while believing they are reaching toward each other. It is as if he has convinced the prisoners that watching each other's shadows constitutes genuine relationship.
In your Republic, you argued that society should be led by philosopher kings, those who have escaped the cave and seen true reality. How do you view tech leaders like Zuckerberg who wield enormous influence over how billions perceive the world?
This troubles me profoundly. Zuckerberg possesses the power of a king, indeed, greater power than any ancient ruler could imagine. He shapes the daily reality of, yet from what you describe, he is no philosopher.
What would make him a philosopher in your view?
A philosopher king must first escape the cave himself, must undergo the painful journey from illusion to truth. He must learn to see beyond appearances to the eternal forms, justice, beauty, truth itself. Only then can he guide others toward enlightenment. But Zuckerberg seems trapped in a cave of his own making. He has created a shadow world and convinced himself it represents progress toward truth and connection. He mistakes engagement metrics for genuine human flourishing, confuses data collection for wisdom.
He often speaks about using data and metrics to optimize human experience.
Data, metrics. These are precisely the tools of those who mistake shadows for reality. They count and measure the movements of shadows on the wall, believing this constitutes knowledge. True wisdom cannot be quantified. Love, justice, beauty, truth. These forms exist beyond measurement. A philosopher king would recognize that genuine human connection and authentic community cannot be optimized through algorithms.
But couldn't technology be a tool for enlightenment? Couldn't social media help people access diverse perspectives and break out of limited worldviews?
In principle, yes. Any tool can serve wisdom or ignorance. Fire can cook food or burn down cities. But observe the actual use. Does Facebook's algorithm show users diverse perspectives that challenge their assumptions? Or does it show them content that confirms their existing beliefs and keeps them scrolling?
Research suggests algorithms tend to create ecochambers and filter bubbles that reinforce existing beliefs.
Exactly. Zuckerberg has created the most sophisticated system of intellectual imprisonment in human history. It appears to offer infinite choice and unlimited information, but it actually narrows each user's reality to an increasingly constrained set of shadows specifically chosen to maintain their captivity. In my allegory, the prisoners would eventually become curious about the source of the shadows. But Zuckerberg's algorithm ensures they never develop such curiosity. It feeds them exactly the shadows they already want to see.
How would a true philosopher king approach social technology?
A philosopher king would recognize that technology is merely a tool. The question is whether it leads souls toward truth or away from it. He would design systems that challenge users, that expose them to difficult truths, that encourage real philosophical inquiry rather than passive consumption. Instead of maximizing engagement, he would maximize enlightenment. Instead of showing people what they want to see, he would show them what they need to see to grow in wisdom and virtue. But such a system would be commercially disastrous. People would use it less, not more. This reveals the fundamental contradiction. Zuckerberg's business model requires keeping people in the cave.
You taught that behind every earthly thing lies a perfect form, the form of justice, beauty, truth. How do social media representations relate to these eternal realities?
This strikes at the heart of my deepest concerns. Social media represents what I would call mimesis of mimesis, copies of copies, shadows of shadows. Consider, someone experiences a beautiful sunset. Already their memory of it is merely a copy of the true form of beauty. Then they photograph it, a copy of the copy. Then they apply filters to make it more engaging, a copy of a copy of a copy. Then the algorithm decides who sees it based on engagement metrics rather than truth or beauty. By the time this image appears in someone's feed, it is so far removed from the form of beauty that it may actually lead souls away from true beauty rather than toward it.
And yet people feel they are sharing authentic experiences.
This is the tragedy. They confuse the shadow play for authentic sharing. True sharing would involve souls encountering each other directly in contemplation of the forms. Instead, we have endless circulation of diminished copies. Consider what you call influencers, people who have built their entire identity around projecting carefully crafted images of themselves. They become professional shadowcasters, and their followers mistake these curated personas for real human beings.
How does this affect our ability to recognize truth?
Catastrophically. In my cave allegory, the prisoners develop skill at predicting shadow patterns. They become experts in illusion. Similarly, social media users develop sophisticated abilities to navigate digital reality while losing touch with actual reality. They can instantly detect fake news in their political opponents' feeds while being blind to the algorithmic manipulation in their own. They become connoisseurs of virtual experiences while losing capacity for authentic experience.
You have always empathized the importance of dialogue in reaching truth. How does social media conversation compare to Socratic dialogue?
What passes for dialogue on social media is mostly monologue performed before an audience. True Socratic dialogue requires vulnerability, genuine curiosity, willingness to be wrong, and sustained attention to a single question until wisdom emerges. But social media rewards the opposite: quick reactions, confirmation of existing beliefs, performance of certainty, and constant movement between topics. It's designed for the very characteristics that prevent genuine philosophical inquiry. When someone posts a thoughtful question, they rarely receive thoughtful responses. Instead, they receive likes, brief reactions, or arguments that miss the deeper point entirely.
What would genuine digital dialogue look like?
It would be slow, patient, anonymous to prevent ego performance, focused on single questions for extended periods, and designed to reveal ignorance rather than confirm knowledge. Users would come seeking to learn rather than to persuade. The platform would reward depth over virality, questions over answers, collaborative truth-seeking over individual position-taking. But again, such a platform would be commercially unviable in your current economic system. Wisdom cannot be monetized through advertising.
In your allegory, a prisoner eventually breaks free and sees reality beyond the cave. How can people today escape the digital cave of social media?
The first step is always recognition, understanding that what you take for reality may be merely shadows. Most social media users have never seriously considered that their feeds might be fundamentally distorting their perception of reality. The escaped prisoner in my allegory experiences pain when first exposed to sunlight. Similarly, stepping away from social media initially feels uncomfortable. Boredom, disconnection, fear of missing out. This discomfort is actually a sign of progress.
What would the journey out look like practically?
Begin with small acts of resistance to the algorithm. Seek out sources that challenge your existing beliefs. Practice sustained attention. Read entire books rather than just summaries and excerpts. Engage in face-to-face conversation about difficult topics. Most importantly, cultivate what I call divine madness, the philosophical eros that drives souls toward truth even when it's uncomfortable. This is the opposite of the passive consumption that social media encourages.
But wouldn't complete withdrawal from social media mean losing connection with others?
This reveals how deeply the illusion has penetrated. You equate digital connection with genuine human connection. But consider, before social media, did humans not love, friendship not flourish, communities not thrive? True connection occurs soul to soul, in the pursuit of truth and virtue together. What social media offers is a simulation of connection, the feeling of relationship without its reality.
What role should education play in helping people recognize these illusions?
Education must return to its true purpose, turning souls toward truth rather than filling minds with information. Instead of teaching students to consume and produce digital content, we should teach them to recognize the difference between shadow and substance. Students should learn to ask, what is the source of this information? What interest does it serve? How might it be distorting my perception? What would I think about this topic if I had never seen it discussed on social media? Most importantly, they should practice the patient, collaborative pursuit of wisdom that cannot be reduced to viral content.
Could technology ever serve genuine philosophical education?
Perhaps, but it would look nothing like current social media. It would be designed to slow thinking down rather than speed it up, to encourage questioning rather than quick judgments, to foster humility rather than certainty. It might connect students with wise teachers across distances, or preserve important philosophical texts, or facilitate genuine collaborative inquiry. But it would resist the fundamental logic of engagement optimization that drives current platforms.
What hope do you see for humanity's relationship with digital technology?
Every cave can be escaped. Every shadow world can be transcended. The forms, truth, justice, beauty, love, remain eternal and accessible to any soul willing to undergo the difficult journey toward them. Your generation faces a unique challenge, learning to live with powerful illusion-generating technologies while maintaining contact with reality. But humans have always faced the challenge of distinguishing appearance from reality. The solution is not to reject all technology, but to develop the philosophical wisdom to use it in service of truth rather than allowing it to use us in service of illusion. Remember, the goal is not to destroy the cave, but to free the prisoners. And the first prisoner to be freed must always be yourself.
Great philosopher, as you return to the realm of eternal forms, what final wisdom would you offer to those still chained in the digital cave?
Remember that reality exists beyond your screen. Truth exists beyond your feed. Love exists beyond your likes. The examined life is still the only one worth living, and no algorithm can examine it for you. Be suspicious of any system that claims to show you the world while keeping you from engaging with it directly. Question, especially those shadows that confirm what you already believe. And if you succeed in breaking free, remember the philosopher's duty. Return to help others recognize their chains. Do not let them stone you for suggesting their shadows are not the whole of reality.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Conversations with the Great Dead. Next time, we'll summon Albert Camus, one of the most prominent figures of philosophy of absurdism, to discuss the absurdity and the Sisyphean scroll, how endless digital feeds reflect the absurd condition of modern existence. Until then, remember, question the shadows on your screen, for they may be more binding than any physical chains. This episode was inspired by Plato's Republic, Allegory of the Cave, and contemporary research on social media's psychological and social effects.